You are absolutely not going to believe us. You are going to call this fake news, but Emma and I are here to report exactly what we saw. Friends, the Nashville Predators won a game, and they did it by scoring 7 goals.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Hockey Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this most joyous of Wednesdays, shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders and, of course, our everydayers who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. I am Ann Kimmel. I am a writer and a co-host with Penalty Box Radio and friends. I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Nashville Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
Look, if you are a party pooper, if you just want to come on here and be like, but the Predators are still the third worst team of the season, we know, but you will not steal our joy today because Emma and I get to cover a win. We don't only get to cover a Nashville Predators win, which has been a rare thing, my friends, but we get to cover a win where there was just nothing short of an offensive explosion. On today's show, we are going to recap the craziest game last night that the Nashville Predators, I know, I can't believe I'm saying it, they won. We're going to share our one word to describe that game. We're going to talk you through just the wacky sequence in which that happened. We will hear from one of the stars of the game, and we are also going to have a discussion on regret, off-season regret. Emma, I'll be very honest with you. I didn't think that we were ever going to recap a win again, ever. At least this season. But I mean, it started to feel like maybe even ever.
No, and here's the beauty of it for everyone who is still on Team Tank. The Predators are still the third worst team in the league, and they're probably gonna finish there, like barring anything insane, more insane than scoring 7 goals and winning. And we still got to see a win, an exciting win at that. Now,
Yes.
Again, and not to be a party pooper right off the jump here, but you don't usually want to give up 6 goals. Not usually the recipe for success.
Much.
But when you score 7,
who cares? At this point in the season, who cares? Okay.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, Emma, this was so crazy. My one word is windfall. If you would have told me, and I was straight sober during this conversation, that the Nashville Predators were going to have a game through the remainder of the season in which they would score more than 3 goals, I would have thought you were lying. I really would. I would not have thought, not just, this is not, and again, some of you disagree. You're wrong, but it's okay to disagree. It's not a talent issue. I think so much of it is at this point in the season, it is a mental issue. It is a healthy personnel issue. It is a fortitude issue, coaching issue. A lot has gone into that. But it was a windfall of goals. It was a windfall of goals. I mean, the goals just kept coming. And the way that they came was so dramatic. The theater major in me, it was, I laughed, I cried. It was better than Cats. This was a hockey game I would watch over and over again. Like, first of all, everything is better than Cats. But this was a really, really great hockey game. So for me, my one word is windfall. If you had to describe this game in one word or more, Minka doesn't care. Upper management has said it's fine. We can use as many words as we want. How would you describe the 7-6 overtime win over the New York Islanders we watched last night?
I'm going to go with 2 words. Sorry, upper management, but she is currently sleeping on the job, so I don't think she minds. 2 words, 3 stars, because if you if you watch the show, we've explained before that the way that the NHL picks the 3 stars of the game after a game is, one of the media members in attendance usually gets to pick them. And I was tapped for this particular game to pick the 3 stars. And I will say this season, I have yet to pick 3 stars in a game that the Predators have won. So this was a big moment for me.
Mm-hmm.
And normally you have to submit your nominees or your choices with like 6 minutes left in the third period. Well, a lot happened in the final 6 minutes of that third period, friends. And
Yeah.
I was so stressed for like the last 5 minutes of that game where I'm not even kidding. Thankfully I was allowed to submit, an updated list, but
Mhm.
I had 2 lists. It's like one if the Predators win, one if the Predators lose, and then I had to completely alter them, and it wasn't just a few edits like here and there. It was like 2 completely different lists that I
Yes.
submitted like 2 minutes later. So it was stressful, but it was a stress that again, if it meant that we got to actually cover a win, I was happy to, bear that cross for everyone else last night. We could actually get a win and get to celebrate something. But that was
So stressful anyway. Like, 3 stars is a lot of pressure, but then when you have a game that swings late like this,
yeah.
you just yeah.
Well, of course,
Crowns in heaven, Emma. Crowns in
uh,
heaven.
of
Good
course,
work.
Fedor Svechkov did not make it onto my 3 stars list. And, again, for anyone who is upset about that, I would just like to make it known that we do have to submit the list
Mhm.
well before the game is over. And of course, I ended up with Michael Bunting as the 3rd star because he scored the tying goal that sent it
Yeah.
to overtime. I'm sorry, Fedor. I will get you back. I will buy you a puppy. I will, we'll make this right.
Yes, I think that would be a fair amends. I think Fedor Svechkov would overlook this. We had so much. I mean, like the subtext was blowing up through this entire game because what in the what in the what? Like once Nashville scored 1 goal, everybody is like, and there's the one. And then when Nashville scored a second goal, it looked a little wonky. The bringing it into the ozone looked a little wonky, and I was like, "That's gonna be offside." We can't have nice things. Got 2 goals, and it's like, wait a second. By the end of this game, oh my goodness, Macy's texted and she said my stress level chart from her Uber ring had a lot to say about tonight's game. She said, me on the other hand, I don't have much to say at all other than what? Because what? And that's it. Jean's one word, special. It was a very Svechkov special game. Special. I think that should be that should become a hockey word. I love that. Gayton's wife Nancy submitted one word. She is, just for the record, his upper management. We understand how that works. Nancy's one word was you get a goal and you get a goal and you get a goal. Very Oprah Winfrey with this because like 7 goals. That's a goal for every day of this week, you all. Another insider's word was chaos. Dustin's one word was thanks, refs. I've wondered all season what's it going to take to get these boys to get mad and play together as a team. Apparently, it's getting pissed off at the refs for their no call on that Ryan O'Reilly high stick to the head. We're going to talk about that high stick to the head. Jennifer's one word, fever dream. I've had a fever over the weekend. Now I'm wondering if it's back. Whatever this game is, it feels like a fever dream. You all, it was an insane game. Coming up, there was an odd sequence of events that actually led to the tie and then eventually to the overtime win. We're going to walk you through those sequence of events as best we can, friends. It's a lot. It's a lot to put together. We're also going to share some words of wisdom from Steven Stamkos and from the game-winning goal scorer Fedor Svechkov. Had such a great time post-game, which, friends, that's not something we get to say very often this season. We'll tell you what they had to say coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at Wonderful Pistachios. If you are looking for a snack that is both delicious and nutritious, you need to crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they are packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I personally am a no shells variety when it comes to Wonderful Pistachios. It makes this perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether I am sitting here at my desk working, I'm driving down to Bridgestone Arena, or I just hit that point in the day where I'm like, okay, got to get some protein in me. It's a great go to. But if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, they have a great in shell option that is a classic favorite. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, Emma, you're going to have to help me walk through this because it was chaos. We had several insiders talk about chaos being their one word, and it was. This was a very back and forth game. A team would get a goal advantage, it would get tied up. Goal advantage, it would get tied up. Not a particularly glamorous night for goaltenders. In the word of Fedor Svechkov, not a good goalie night, but good night for fans.
He said game was good, not for goalies.
For goalies. It's like national treasure Fedor Svechkov. We'll get to him in a minute. So Nashville is down 5-4 with just over, like a smidge over 4 minutes left. The Islanders are called for a hook. So now Nashville gets a power play. Emma, I missed this particular sequence in live and in person, but on the power play right away, Ryan O'Reilly takes a high stick. There is blood. There is no call. Scott Mayfield immediately goes down and scores a shorthanded goal. This, my friends, is where Zen Master Steven Stamkos loses his hockey shit. Steven Stamkos. Now, the refs huddled up. The refs talked to Ryan O'Reilly. They had a conversation with one of the New York Islanders alternate captains. So there was a moment where it was like, well, we're just going to go ahead. Steven Stamkos chewed that ref out like it was Thanksgiving dinner and he had a turkey leg. Just chewing. They lost their minds. So go back to play. Nashville is on the power play. They get whistled for a bench minor for unsportsmanlike with, I think, 3:22 left. So now Nashville is down 2 goals. The power play becomes a 4-on-4. Predators get the puck. On and in goes to the bench. They add an extra attacker. Stamkos, of course, scores a power play goal with 3:07 remaining. So it's now a 6-5 game. So then Bo Horvat is called for a trip with just under 3 minutes left. Nashville wins the faceoff. It is 5-on-4. They pull on and in. It is now 6-on-4. Steven Stamkos shoots the puck. Michael Bunting, who, friends, knows that the slot is not lava, happens to be there because that's where he goes in a hockey game. And he scores the game-tying goal. Goes to overtime. Hero, not zero, Fedor Svechkov scores the overtime winner. I would not, with 4 minutes to go, Emma, I would not have believed that this is how this game would have gone. The shorthanded goal by the Islanders, I would have been like, yeah, that's the Nashville Predators. That's how games go for the Nashville Predators this season. But honestly, something happened with this team where, they were like, not today, Satan. And they found a way to get back in this game. Like they just didn't fold. And I think that was what was really exciting. Yes, at this point, you want the win for the Predators, but to see the fight that they had in them at this point in the game, for me, was very encouraging to see.
Yeah, well, you said that you figured that shorthanded goal would be the nail in the coffin. I'm like, I
100%.
would have figured the very first goal that the Islanders scored in the game was the nail in the
You're like,
coffin. Because as we have discussed previously, the Predators, we don't get nice things. And, more than one goal, much less 7 of them.
7, you all.
And as far as that, Steven Stamkos losing his Jesus, I do think that was funny, because the Predators did get a bench minor for unsportsmanlike in that game, and no one could really tell what happened.
This was the best.
We're all like, what? I mean, someone must have said something real bad, because it wasn't immediately clear, what happened. And I asked assistant coach Todd Richards about it after the game. And before I could even finish the question, it was a 2-part question. I was going to say, can you tell us what exactly happened there and then how the team sort of rallied after that? But before I could get to the second part of the question, he goes, yeah, I think it might have been me. He kind of laughed a little sheepishly, and he's like, I think it might have been me. But then some of the players were saying that they said stuff too, and so it could have been one of them. I don't know, but it made me feel a little bit better because I thought it was me. And
Yeah,
I was
and
like,
and he said,
that is so
and
cool.
I've said worse.
Yes,
He's like,
he goes,
and I mean, I've said worse in other games, but
bless. It
same,
was
Todd Richards, same.
But yes, no, I mean, clearly Ryan O'Reilly was bleeding and we couldn't even talk to him post game.
No.
We had requested him, but we couldn't get him because he was getting his face stitched up post game. So the proof he was in fact bleeding. So yeah, it was one of those things that we've talked about so many times before with this team, that the moment one thing goes wrong, everything comes unraveled. And for once, that did not happen. For
Yeah.
once. And it is good to see them have that fight, and it's good to see hey, it's there. They have it. And that goes back to what you were saying before about this isn't a lack of talent on this team. It just, they haven't been able to find it. And I think that the way that this particular game ended, the way that it went, it was, one of those things that I think is really, really good for the younger players, to be in situations like this. Steven Stamkos mentioned that it's good for these kids, even if Svechkov hadn't scored the OT winner, just the fact that he's in these situations, overtime,
Yes.
power play, penalty
Yes.
kill, tie, lead, trailing, 3-on-3. It's good, and it's helpful for, for his development, and, not just this year, but moving forward.
Yeah, I agree with that. For these young players to sort of see how you work your way out, you claw your way out of a situation like this. Here's the thing that I did really like about this. This was very much a veteran-led win, and we have needed to see that. Steven Stamkos, 4 points. He had 2 goals, 4 points. Marchessault, 3 assists in his first game back since injury. Michael Bunting, 2 points, especially, that key in the slot goal that he had. Philip Forsberg had a goal and an assist. You want to see your veterans lead the way in a game like this, because that's how your young players learn. Your Svechkovs, your Evangelistas, your Zach LaRue's. You want to see what it takes from a veteran guy, and they really stepped up, and that's something that I think that we've needed to see. But let us not overlook the contribution of Fedor Svechkov. Not only did he score the overtime winning goal, he provided what has to be, at least for me, one of the most delightful media scrums I have ever been a part of. He's such a treasure, you all.
He always does. He always delivers. He's going to say something funny, whether he
Yes.
intends to or not. And he just, he says the quiet part out loud, and it's just,
It's
he's
a
a delight.
treasure. Speaking of saying the quiet part out loud, that's exactly what he did. He was asked in the media scrum, what was so impressive about this win tonight? Friends, I give you Fedor Svechkov.
I mean, we scored 2 goals. I'm impressed. I mean, like, guys did a great job. Summer, Phil, Barnes, Factor, all the guys who's been on ice. They gave us a chance to win this game, and yeah, it's cool.
We scored 2 goals. I'm impressed.
Me too, Svech. Me
I
too.
mean, you are saying the quiet part out loud, and you are not wrong. Just delightful. And again, this is a young player where you want to see, like you said, Stamkos mentioned it. You want to see him out there on the penalty kill in close games. You want to see him get an opportunity in overtime. It is going to do nothing but benefit Fedor Svechkov. So it was a great win. Look, everybody, we know. We get it. This changes nothing, but it's really fun to get a win and to see veterans have success and see young players have an opportunity to learn. And that's what we got 64 minutes of, 63, 62 minutes of last night. Yeah, 62 minutes of last night. So Emma and I are happy about that. Do we understand where the Predators are? We do. We get that. And like you said, Emma, towards the top of the show, don't panic, tankers. Nashville is still very likely to finish third worst team in the league. So we get a little like shot in the arm, but it costs us nothing more in the draft lottery. Remember, it's a lottery. Coming up, we had a great question pregame from one of our insiders, and it's something that Emma and I feel like let's wrestle with. We're going to talk about, should Barry Trotz regret those big offseason signings?
Do you have trouble sleeping? If so, you're not alone. That used to be me, lacking rest, tossing and turning. I was late for meetings. I never felt like myself. That's until I found Bare Mattress. Bare Mattress and their sleep recovery technology helped me fall asleep faster as well as enjoy deeper sleeps. I felt like myself again, and you can too. Bare Mattress knows that every sleeper is different. That's why they have their sleep quiz on their website that finds you your perfect match. As a side sleeper, I matched with the Elite Hybrid mattress, and I've been telling everyone in my life they have to try Bare Mattress risk-free. You can sleep on your Bare Mattress up to 120 nights, and if you're not getting the best sleep of your life, you can get it refunded. They'll pick it up with absolutely no hassle. So go to baremattress.com and use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout to get 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's baremattress.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 40% off site-wide. Baremattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
All right, Emma, had a really interesting question from one of our insiders. And you and I chatted about this pregame and said, okay, you know what? Let's just table this and talk about it on today's episode. And this is a topic that I think probably you and I are going to dig into much deeper in the offseason, but we're just going to have a brief conversation about this. One of our insiders texted us and said, do you think Barry regrets last season's spending spree? And do you get from him that he has a grasp of how exactly this needs to be fixed? Do you think Barry Trotz regrets the offseason signings? And I think we're talking Shea, Stamkos, Marchessault, $6 million or some gigantic total. Do you think he regrets that? Do you think he should?
No and no. I mean, at the time, no one questioned these moves. I mean, of course, now people are saying, oh, you never should have signed these aging veterans. This was horrible idea, horrible job by Barry Trotz. Listen, there is plenty of room for regret with other moves that have been made this year.
Yes.
And we have talked about them before, and we will talk about them some more during the off season because it's going to be a long off season, friends.
Yes.
But as far as regret goes, there is absolutely no reason to regret what was done in the offseason, because this team for so long had been stuck in that sort of middle. Fans were begging for a direction. It's like,
Mhm.
let's decide what we are. Are we rebuilding? Are we just going to scrap it and start from scratch? Or are we going to try to win now? And, David Poyle had, racked up all this cap space, and it's like, okay, that's great. You can't take it with you. So what are we going to do? And whether you agree, whether you are on team win now or team rebuild, the fact remains that Barry Trotz picked a direction, and
Mhm.
he made a choice, and he said, we're going to try to win now. And if that is your choice, take out whether you agree with, if that was the right choice. But if that's what you're choosing to do, then the moves all make a ton of sense. I mean, why wouldn't you go out and get Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault and Brady Shea? Going into the offseason, we would have thought getting one of those
Oh my
guys would be
goodness.
a huge coup
Yes.
for Nashville. But they got all three. And have they panned out, the way that we expected? No, not yet. Not this year.
Right.
But I think, again, in a season where quite literally everything that could go wrong has gone wrong, people are just grasping for the first thing they can. It's like, well, the team outperformed expectations last year and they're bad this year, so it must be the new guys. It must be their fault. And it's like,
Mhm.
no, it's not that simple.
Yeah.
So I don't think that there's any reason to regret those offseason signings. Other moves, yes, but we're
Oh,
not
yes,
talking about
yes.
those right now.
Yeah. I agree 100% with you, and I'm gonna go a step further and say I would not even say that these signings didn't work. Did they work this season? No, this season was an absolute disaster, and I don't think there's anybody who is gonna sit here and argue that the Nashville Predators season wasn't basically a disaster. I mean, it's not even just a disappointment. But I don't still think these signings didn't work. And I know there are a lot of people in the fan base that are like, "No, we've got these huge contracts and we need to da da da." Yeah, they are huge contracts. And, Brady Shea's, especially, is 7 years. It's not gonna age particularly well, but sometimes you have to sign that kind of contract to get the player. Here's what I know for sure. Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault, and Brady Shea, they are all going to have better seasons next season. If you think for 1 minute that Steven Stamkos has peaked and will that this season, this year is his new norm, you are incorrect. You're wrong. I am very curious to see what happens next season because I am not ready to say these signings were a failure. I don't think Barry Trotz should regret them, even if they're not, because again, I'm with you. You swing big. You make a decision and you go with it. And he did it in such a way that it does not cost you the future of this franchise. You could not have threaded that particular aspect of the needle any better. Now, will it pan out? There's a lot of decisions in the offseason that Barry Trotz has to make this successful. Do we think Barry Trotz has an idea of how this needs to be fixed? I do. I think he's been pretty forthcoming about the things that he intends to do. I think he intends to find a right shot defenseman to pair with Roman Yossi. He's been very upfront about that is huge. I wouldn't say I would be shocked if he moved a player. Marchessault is who I think it could be. I think he'll probably want to keep Stamkos. Um, I do think that the most important thing that Barry Trotz has to get right doesn't have a thing to do with last season's signings, the offseason signings. The most important thing Barry Trotz has to do and has to get right this offseason is the draft. He's got to get that right because the eggs that you want in your basket are going to come in this draft. I do think he thinks he knows how to fix it, but I will also say this. I don't think that there is an NHL pundit. I don't think there is a former NHL coach. I don't believe there is an active, experienced general manager who would have looked at the Nashville Predators the day training camp kicked off and looked at this roster and said, you know what I see? I see the third worst team in the league. I think a lot of factors have gone into what happened this season. And I don't think there is anybody who necessarily saw this coming. And if you say that you did, okay. Okay. But I do think that there is a pathway forward with a lot of these same pieces. We'll see what he does.
Yeah, that ties in, I think, to what I was alluding to before, as far as the moves that perhaps Barry Trotz should regret,
Girl.
namely moving on from particular right shot defensemen at the time and at the manner in which he did.
Mhm.
Do I think that Dante Fabro or Alex Carrier is a Hall of Famer, a franchise cornerstone type of player? No, I don't. But when you move on from them in the time and in the fashion that you do, and then come out and say that one of your top off-season priorities is to find a right shot defenseman, Barry,
Hashtag awkward.
you had two of them, three if you want to throw Luke Shen in there. So
I miss
I,
Luke
I
Shen.
I don't, that is the part that worries me a little bit, where
Mhm.
I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Again, going back to what I said, if you don't think that Dante Fabro or Alex Carrier is the answer, that's fine. I won't
Mhm.
argue with you on that.
Mhm.
But to move on from them in the middle of the season, and like Fabro to put him on waivers, get nothing for him.
That's not good.
Carrier to get Justin Barron. Yeah. Justin Barron has been described to me as a project. I think that's putting it nicely. I still don't think he knows he's a defenseman, but either
Part of the
way,
project.
that was another thing. When 3-on-3 overtime against the Islanders, who was out there? Justin Barron. And I
To start it.
immediately said, I was like, that's it. We're done. That's it. They're going to
Yeah.
win, or they're going to lose.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it didn't happen. Happy to be wrong about that. But the point is, like, you could have moved on from those guys in the off season. You could have not re-signed Carrier to a 3-year extension and then immediately flip him. Again, I have said before, and I still believe this, that there, you don't fully know the winners and losers in a trade for, probably several years. And I still think that's true, but that doesn't change the fact that the immediate results have not been good. And that is what gives me a little bit of pause about, like, does he have a plan? Does Barry have
Mhm.
because some of the moves this year seemed very reactionary. It was like, oh crap, the team is bad. Yeah,
Do something.
do something. And it's like, well, he seemed better at, like, holding, staying the course when the team was outperforming expectations, and not so much the opposite. And so
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sitting here saying I don't think Barry has any idea what he's doing. I'm just saying that, like, I am proceeding with caution in
Mhm.
this off season, in this draft, that I'm like, I'm still willing to give you the benefit of the doubt, Barry, but, like, yeah,
Choose wisely.
choose wisely. Yes.
Yeah, choose wisely. But yeah, I don't think Stamkos Marchessault. I don't think that even cracks his list of general managing regrets. I think he feels pretty good about that. Do we feel pretty good about last night's win? We do. Do we understand where this team is? We also do. 4 games remain. Tomorrow's show, we are going to preview their game against the Utah Hockey Club. Still think we need to workshop that. And then remaining games, the Vegas Golden Knights, they will host Utah here. And then, friends, we're going to wrap up the season against the Dallas Stars, who, by the way, had it handed to them by the Vancouver Canucks in outrageous overtime fashion. Go check out the end of that game if you thought the Nashville game was wild as well. Emma, before we log off on today's episode, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
You can find me on social media at Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
And you can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio. You can, of course, find the show at LO_Predators. We are on Twitter. We are on Instagram. We're just everywhere. We're on YouTube, all that good stuff. It has been a great joy to recap a win with you all today. We hope that you take this 7-6 overtime Svechkov game win with you throughout your Wednesday. We will be back tomorrow to preview the game against the Utah Hockey Club. We will see you then.